Welcome, guys, to KC Happy Hour. We just got back, at least the kart chaser side, about 8 a.m. this morning after the 18-hour drive from Vegas. We've actually got one of our guests here still on the road, but we've got a lot of our regulars. I do also have a couple special guests coming on the show here tonight. I was hoping to get a few of our pro shifter guys. They're still on the road as well. It's a long way to get out of Vegas. Everybody normally has to spend Monday a little bit kind of tearing down if you still are doing that on Sunday. But let's go ahead and bring in some of our guests here. Connor Zilish, our main man, is here. Frankie Mossman, who had a breakout weekend in senior, we got as our special guest on the show. Brandon Jarsakrak, our man on the road. Big kudos to him. We'll see how much we can actually hear him, but he's already got better internet than Tony Tesoro, so we're way better than that, and he's in the middle of a truck. Paulie Massimino, somehow our official cripple, has been able to turn on the computer with his hand. Paulie, great to see you. Braden Eves is here, and, of course, Mr. Five-time national champ, and the driver who just won the SKUSA SuperNats and X30, Ryan Norberg, is here, everybody. Woo! We got.
All right, that was pre-planned.
Yeah, that was pre-planned. Nobody cares.
That was how absolutely fucking weak it is. There's a lot of jealousy out here. No, but in all seriousness, big congrats to Ryan. And we had a mixed bag of results for everybody here. We're also hopefully going to be having Jeremy Fletcher join us, who became the first driver since 2005 to become a double-class winner at the SuperNats, swept KA and X30 Junior, only the second driver in history to do it. So hopefully we can get Jeremy on. He's trying to hustle on home. But we have a couple updates here to give you guys before we get into everything from the SuperNats. First of all, we've actually got a lot of all-access videos coming your guys' way on the Kart Chaser YouTube over the next couple weeks. We have 2 coming out of Rock Vegas that'll be dropping later this week. One with Team GFC Karting and one with Leading Edge Motorsports. We've got 5 videos coming out of the SuperNats that I'm super excited about with all access behind the scenes with teams. Ryan Perry Motorsport, Leading Edge Motorsports is going to have one as well. Hardin Motorsport Group has one coming. We've also got 2 other additional videos as well, one with Trinity Karting Group coming out, and I believe one more. Kyle, I know I'm forgetting one here. We just got out of there, but we have one more video we were filming. MPG Motorsports, one of our partners of the show, with Will Power Card, also has a video coming. And then on top of that, if you guys have been following us on social, we've been doing a lot of fun clips with all the drivers on the grid. So we've got TikToks coming out, clips coming out. We are not going to be doing a regular episode from SKUSA SuperNats. The Rock Vegas episode was our last episode on the season. The reason for that is SKUSA's contract with CBS Sports and Greenlight TV is an exclusive on-track contract on Sunday for the main events. So I didn't think it really made sense to be able to do an episode where we film the heats, film the qualifying, do everything before and after, and not be able to showcase you guys what happened on the racetrack. Plus, of course, there was the live stream that is archived on the SKUSA YouTube and Facebook channel. It's already got over 10,000 views. So a lot of guys can figure out what went down. In fact, we've got some clips of it we wanted to talk about because there were a lot of headlines coming out of the event. But again, before we get to that, still more headlines to come. Of course, we've got later on in the show, after our final commercial break, we have exclusive footage thanks to a friend and viewer of the show, Franco Sapuyo, and his son, Noah, who is a local racer down at Homestead, with the brand new curbs and runoff and grass that were installed. It's going to get racing action for the very first time this weekend with a club event to prime for the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, which is going to have its registration open tomorrow. So I'm involved with that. I know we have a lot of viewers that race SSKC or are looking to go down to Homestead. We're a little behind, but that registration should be coming up first thing tomorrow morning. So just a heads up on that as well. If you were looking and saying, hey, is that race still happening? Or is the registration? We're just behind and everything. But that's on me. But anyway, SSKC, club racing there. A lot of the teams already began the pilgrimage out. And, of course, big news that just came out today, the Miami Grand National Championship is back. We knew it was already confirmed back for 2022. They got the date lined up, posted by Kevin Harvick and Miami USA East. KHI management obviously going to be involved in the event again. That was our breakout event with Kart Chaser. So we'll definitely be there, of course. We're super stoked about it. October 13th to the 16th. The format for that event, I don't know how it's going to end up working, but I know if you don't have it on your calendar, or at least you're not ready to pre-register early, you need to be, because that event, after how much fun it was this year, I think is going to sell out big time. And I think everybody here can agree. I mean, that was probably everybody's favorite event on the season that got to go race, and probably the most fun we've had at a go-kart track in a while, which was really, really cool to have. And we'll have everybody here hopefully there. So Ryan, you win, so you get to talk first, man. Your weekend, the only one that really had the best one out of everybody, obviously.
Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle early on in the week. I mean, I think the first day of practice we were pretty quick, and then Thursday, I think the track changed quite a bit, and from that point on, I didn't really feel that fast. I think there's a few guys that I thought were, the real contenders, and I thought it was Danny Curel. I thought Braden had some speed as well, that he was going to be up there. I thought Connor was also pretty quick the whole week. So those are the guys that I was kind of looking at and being like, okay, like I've got to find pace to match them. And I didn't really have much in qualifying. And then the heat races, I also wasn't really fast. So I kind of lucked into one heat win, and that was good enough. It saved me a few spots there going into the final. And then, the final, I wasn't really quick either. So I didn't really feel like I had the speed to get a lot of the stuff done, but I knew that we were, set up for the end of the run there and set up to do well towards the end. So it was just kind of staying patient and waiting for the chaos to happen. And so luckily a few doors got opened. And what was crazy is that I don't think people really fought me for a lot of the passes. Like Connor would pass and they would go like mayhem for 2 or 3 corners. And then I'd sneak by 1 or 2 guys. And then it would go mayhem again, and I'd sneak by another driver, and it would and I just kept getting these one pass at a time deals. And that's what really brought me up, because I genuinely think if it were to go full mayhem, it wouldn't have been my race. It definitely was. It was not, I didn't have the cart to race that. I was just a guy who could go fast alone, and it worked. Everything, doors were open at the right time, and I was able to make passes when I needed to. And luckily, the chaos happened behind me. A lot of the time, I'd pass, and then drivers would freak out and start racing each other, and that'd give me just enough breathing room to keep going. And so, yeah, I won it. It was crazy. First time ever.
Yeah, Connor, I think you probably had the best piece, it looked like, out of the lead group there. I mean, your stuff was really fast, but I mean, it from when you were coming up in junior and then your first few races over in Europe. As soon as even though you've been at the front of the Nationals all year, you got no love from anybody, especially Hiltbrand.
Yeah, no, it was a tough race in both classes. I had the fastest kart in K and X30 and won neither of them, but you kind of got to expect that going into the weekend at Vegas. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, and it's rare that the fastest person wins the race. I mean, unless some crazy stuff happens, because like Ryan said, whenever I went to the lead 2 or 3 times in that race, and every single time I went to the lead, it was like they were attacking me like I was, I don't know, they wouldn't let me have it easy. And then Ryan got he would just weave through everyone, and it was like he had an invisible cloak on and nobody really cared about him. So it was a tough race, definitely, but I'm happy with how it went and the speed we had. I think we proved a lot, and I mean, we had that all season really. So I'm happy with how it went. I mean, I really wish I could have won, but they were both my race to win, and I won neither of them, and that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, Braden, like Ryan said, you had a lot of pace early on in the week, and then kind of like a so-so, I think it was the third heat that was a little bit off, just a rougher start to that one. And then I didn't even see how you got clipped on the first lap, but you got chunked really early in the main.
Yeah, I think this SuperNats for me was probably the best and worst SuperNats that I've had in different ways. I feel like I had the best pace that I have at SuperNats yet. I actually missed the first 2 sessions of the practice day on Wednesday. Immediately went out and was like top 7 overall, and then the next day we were top 4 in both of the practice sessions. I think obviously where the weekend got really tough is that probably nobody really knows about, but we actually had a slight mechanical failure in qualifying. So my chain was coming off, And it was one of those deals where I had to just do everything I could to keep the chain on, just so I got a lap, and I ended up like P18, even with like the chain like genuinely like should not have stayed on the go-kart. So that was kind of the damage control, and then SKUSA decided that because I didn't have a zip tie on the go-kart that they should have taken my fast lap away. So obviously I don't really think that's fair, and I've never really heard of a professional racing series giving penalties like that, but it is what it is. That put us on the back foot. Then we had to start each heat around 12th or 11th and raced our way to the front. We raced to third in the first one, ninth in the second one, and then didn't really have a good third heat. I think the carb kind of got gunked up. So we rebuilt the carb, and it was just a really tough weekend to recover after qualifying.
Right, it's a long shot after just one deal. Brandon and Paulie, you both had rougher weeks. Brandon, yours had a chain get knocked off in a wreck that wasn't really your fault, and then you got chunked starting third, first lap LCQ, first corner.
Yeah, we didn't really have quite the pace all week. I think one of the practice sessions we were like maybe 7th or 8th, so that was kind of the high of the weekend. Then qualifying, we kind of got caught off guard with how cold it got at night, and that put us, I think we qualified like 19th overall. And then, like Braden said, once you qualify back there, it's kind of an uphill battle the rest of the weekend. And yeah, like you said, got caught up in someone else's mess and blew the chain, so that set us really far back. Usually once you have one DNF, it's really hard to make the race right out of the heats. Started third in the LCQ, thought we were going to have a pretty good chance of making it out of that, and got put in the wall in the first corner. So no good.
No bueno. Paulie, I about broke your hand, so I'm not there with you to break it here today. We tried on the happy hour show last week. Show him, how's your hand doing? How are you doing after the wreck you had in practice? I'm
all right. I got it looked at today. I got a fracture, but nothing too serious. I don't really know how long it's gonna take, but I'm gonna try and race this weekend because why not? But no, this SuperNats was probably the worst SuperNats I've ever been to. Started off, first session just cruising, and it was fine. Second session, I feel like I was gonna be good enough to be up there, and then unfortunately, my teammate he decided he wanted to be scared of the barriers. So after he got done whacking them, he pulled over to the left when the pit was on the right. And, knowing he was my teammate, I thought he was just letting me and Carson go by. And in the video, you can hear me try to stop, but there was no way I was stopping. So turned the wheel right, thinking that he was just letting us go by. And then as soon as I got next to him, he kind of just, turned into me and yeah, flew out of the go-kart. Axle hit me in the hand. But other than that, KA, I was still feeling pretty confident about KA. Got in the ambulance. I wanted to get out. Wanted to go back out next 30. But no, everybody on the team, I'm super amazed about how fast they could work, and everyone really worked together to get me back out there. Everybody, I'm super supportive. I just want to say thank you for everybody that came and checked up on me. I really appreciate that. Bunch of kind words, and I was able to get back out there, but I was never able to find the speed. I really don't know what it was. I feel like my driving wasn't too bad, but I can't answer why I was so slow that weekend. But it wasn't from the lack of team effort. Everyone on the team worked super hard. We tried a bunch of things, and the only thing that I didn't try that's still in my mind is tires. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know. I don't even know. But no, my tuner, Joe, all the guys from RFM, they were super fast, super amazing. Built me a chassis about 30 minutes. I thought I was going to be able to make it back out for the third session, but unfortunately that chassis was bent. So they rebuilt it, got back out for the fourth one, and just kind of, I don't know, just kind of couldn't do anything. I mean, we looked at the data, did everything we could, but just wasn't it for X30 this weekend. But KA, I thought we still had a good shot. Kind of lost some speed. going into the second heat. Obviously, it had some dirt in the carburetor, but got that all cleaned out. Kind of third heat wasn't too bad, just kind of made some dumb moves. And in the final, I just didn't have the pace. I just kind of got lucky at where that Connor and all them unfortunately crashed. So had a little bit of luck there, but ended up getting a pushback. And yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go in depth on all the races there in a bit. And Frankie, bit of a breakout weekend for you, bud. Heat race win. I mean, you you're in the top 10 at Rock, but this is a hell of a lot of a step up from the field, man. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty solid. Just the whole team, like especially being more on the OTK product, just needed to get back adjusted to it. Just the whole practice weekend, we were like solid, shot for the race, and got that heat win. Went purple in heat 1, so we knew we were going to be there in the final. But again, carburation, just gunk, whatever. People had that issue, and so we tried rebuilding it before the final, and didn't go well. So we stood P14 or something, so we at least salvaged something, but it was okay.
And Jeremy, joining us now, Mr. Two-time SKUSA SuperNats winner in the same weekend. Congrats, buddy. I'm sure that one felt pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty fast from the start. We went out first session. We were basically at the top of the leaderboards the entire time in times. So we knew we were going to be fast. I mean, I just had to not wreck, and we were good the entire weekend.
Yeah, did a heck of a job. And we got a lot to go through with all the racing over the weekend. Sorry, Jeremy, your mic threw me off for a second with the hurricane. You go to the background. But in all seriousness, we've got a lot of footage and we want to get over it. And, Frankie, it's not the first time he's been mentioned on the show.
One of our DQ drivers in the group chat on the stream just claimed that I DQ'd him. I want to clear the air right now. I was all the way at the top of the hill by the water tower up in the weeds at turn 4. So anything in the scale line, I did not DQ. However, being that it was Frankie Mossman, I would happily DQ him for less, just for running as slow as he can. So, Frankie, I know you're here in the chat. I would have DQ'd you, but actually I didn't get the honor to this time. So you DQ'd yourself, and I had no affiliation to it whatsoever. I want to clear that up right now.
I just wanted to bring the clip back now that we finally have you on the show.
Luckily, I didn't get DQ'd this weekend, though, so it was a little better. I got
DQ.
more luck at SKUSA than USPKS, so...
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. We got a lot of onboard footage to talk, and this was actually a good comment here from Jonas Vidmontian. And so one of the big storylines coming out of the weekend that we'll cover here before we went to the commercial break was all of the crazy penalties that got handed out over the weekend, especially in tech. And Jonas here giving a compliment to the SKUSA staff, and I think those guys take a lot of heat. It's just what happens when you're at the top for so long. Everyone kind of is looking to tear you down, I think, more than normal. So you don't get away with stuff that the lower guys do. I mean, Ryan's won and had the most success this year, and Ryan gets picked on the most on this show. So if that goes to show you anything, when you've been at the top, your people are looking to kind of make you bleed a bit. But I did want to give a shout out to them. So they had a new tech team or some new guys in the tech because it got restructured, and it's just like almost when a company goes over new management or new ownership, that the guys that come in want to make wholesale changes or kind of be like, I'm gonna run it this way or do it that way. And so right off the bat after qualifying, there were people getting fast lap penalties for, like Braden said, he got a fast lap penalty for not having a zip tie go around the battery to hold the battery on, which that one, being safety, I could kind of understand a little bit, but the problem was that the fast lap removal was equal to a pushback penalty. So you could send a guy into the wall, or you could forget to put a zip tie on your battery, and you'd end up with the same penalty for the punishment. One being a whole lot worse, obviously, than the other. And then the biggest one was that they had the chassis seal being on the if your chassis seal was on the left side, was it on the left side? It should have been on the right side. I can't remember. I think that's what it was. The chassis seal, if you had your chassis seal on the left side and not the right side go-kart up by the front tire, to seal your chassis, you lost your fast lap as well. But again, to SKUSA's credit, that they reversed the chassis seal penalties and down to, I believe it was a 2 position in the first heat race. So at least there's adjustments made, and it's easy to rip the whole company up, but every company's compartmentalized. It's not like Tom Kutcher himself went through and checked every go-kart and DQ'd every single one. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is most everybody was here in 2000, I think it was it 19, Connor, when we had the X30 Junior snafu in qualifying with the rain and the slow group got bounced out. So it was only 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, the previous officiating of SKUSA was messy. And so for anyone that wasn't needs their memory jogged on that, or maybe wasn't a part of it, over in Europe they have a it's 110% rule? I don't know the name of the rule, but I think
Maybe
it's
107.
Maybe
Yeah, 107 or 110.
Because there's 2 types of rules for that. There's like one of them is for the slowest driver in the field. Like if you're outside 107%, you normally get cut, like at F4 races and stuff like that, or you start from the pits.
Yeah,
101. Matt Langford corrected me here. 101% to the slow group. So here's the thing. In Europe, you have a million qualifying groups at a bunch of these races, and they're randomized. It's not necessarily set by pace, where in the U.S., at all of our races, we've normalized setting our qualifying groups with a top half after practice and bottom half after practice. So they have the 101% rule for if it rains through the middle of qualifying, because in theory, with randomized groups, you've got a fast guy in every single group. So the pole sitter in each group becomes the benchmark. Well, 2 years ago, X30 Junior, slow group ends up a whole lot slower because they went out on a wetter racetrack than the fast group, and they used the rule to balance the groups out. So you had the drivers that were 45th. Yeah, there we go. 45th in practice, and on back to 88 in X30 Junior, and were weighed out equally to all the drivers that went P1 to P44. Messed up all the heats. In fact, when the way the groups go, that means that one of the heat races is basically a slow group heat. I think the third heat race when it's group CD, or maybe it's BD. Sorry, would have been the even lane on the outside. C and D. There we go. Yeah, C and D were the slowest. So the slowest 40 carts out there, and they stuck by it because qualifying goes at the end of the day on Thursday. I need to bring Matt on here for his opinions, but it would be funny. No. So yeah, so they had practice, qualifying, and Thursday night, everybody, especially for X30 Junior, which is a morning group, so they had the whole afternoon and the whole evening getting rained and saying, look, you guys are making a mistake. You're making a mistake. It's not too late. You can fix it. You can fix it. You can fix it. And they didn't. And they ran through the whole weekend, and they threw the weekend off for a ton of people that qualified 20th in the fast group and probably would have ended up around 25th off raw ability when you merge them. There's always a couple guys that end up in the slow group that are decently fast. But instead, they ended up getting put 40th, and then that ruins your whole weekend. Just like we saw with Brandon and Paulie, you get put back in one of those heats. You don't start in the first 3-4 rows, and you are in the lottery of whether or not you make it to the first lap or not, or make it through without DNFing. So it just throws your whole weekend off because of this bad decision. And they stuck by it, even though it was like, you know what, I think this isn't the right move, but they're like, it's too late to make a change. Instead, here we are 2 years later. They delay the races in the morning group by 30 minutes to get it right and make some adjustments and lessen the penalties and redo the groups and get everything to a proper level. So I want to give a big kudos to SKUSA for that, because they get crapped on a lot. And granted, some of those tech penalties were really, really silly, but unlike a lot of times in any series where they're like, you know what, it's a rule, we die on it, we die on that sword. There was common sense used, and it was reversed. So a big credit there. We're going to go to commercial on that note. When we do come back, we've got a lot of on-track footage, including Connor Zilich's first ever on-track fist fight, if you want to call it that. We're going to bring that up when we come back after the break. Again, stick with us. Casey Happy Hour rolls on. Episode number 21 here for December 7th, 2021.
KC Happy Hour is presented by Precision Performance Karting. PPK is the exclusive South Florida dealer for Coyote Motorsports kart racing chassis and Coyote's newest distributor. However, owner John Seglem and Coyote Motorsports' relationship spans across numerous decades in the sport, meaning that you've got years of winning expertise at your service. PPK offers trackside support at all of the CKNA South Division events, the CKNA majors, such as the Spring Nationals and the Grand Nationals, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and a number of club races in the Southeast. PPK also has an impressive driver roster at these events, racking up multiple wins and podiums in 2021 with longtime Coyote Motorsports driver Chris Carroll and KC Happy Hour's own Paulie Massimino and Brandon Jarsacrack. If you're looking to get on the same race-winning equipment as these drivers, from the Coyote Motorsports chassis to the Odenthal motor mounts and Greyhound racing seats, Precision Performance Karting has you covered. Check out Precision Performance Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or email them at ppkartingfl@gmail.com. There's a new engine program on the block that's already begun winning races. Speed Lab Racing Engines has already racked up wins in X30 classes at the U.S. Pro Kart Series and Rock GP classes at the most recent Rock Vegas event. Headed up by names you can trust, such as longtime engine builder Mario Lafredo and industry veteran Mike Speed, Speed Lab Racing Engines has quickly become the engine of choice for a number of top teams in the sport, most recently servicing the entire Rullison Performance Group and Speed Concepts Racing operations at Rock Vegas, and also servicing the likes of JC Karting and Mike Doty Racing. It won't be long before this engine program gets a wait list, with his resume already filling up with wins, so make sure to reach out and get your tune-up by emailing them at speedlabracingengens@gmail.com.
Welcome back here to KC Happy Hour. We are back after the break, and we've got a lot to digest and a lot of other storylines coming out, and we're going to continue to answer questions on that. So one of the other parts that was a questionable DQ that did get reversed was the result of KA Senior, and we're going to touch on that after we show how we got to that result. And I think everybody's going to get a kick of reliving what happened. So to give you guys a bit of a recap over KA Senior and how it all went down, first and foremost, right off the bat, it was a pretty tame start. Thomas Annunziata, Cole Morgan got away from the field. The only non-tame part about it was out of the second hairpin, Cole completely swerved and hip checked his younger brother Carson, and that kind of sent an accordion effect where then they started battling for third on the opening lap and allowed them to get away. So when they did that, then that allowed Cole and Thomas to break away, and it looked like it was going to be a two-horse race all the way down to the very, very end. And then when we got to about 10 laps to go, we had a red flag come out. Or right about halfway, actually. I think it was maybe about 12 laps to go. They went under full course yellow and then eventually under red and then restarted, which meant everybody was back together. And Connor got taken out in the first corner on the initial start, had drove forward all the way back to 13th, and then got to restart there on the single file restart. So he got a life breath breathed back into him. And it also meant that Carson got another shot to get back at Cole, who swerved him on the first lap. And sure enough, with about 5 to go when Carson went by for the lead, he made sure to park it and hurt Cole's momentum a little bit more, and he lost it. So the Morgan brothers were going at it on track between each other. And then we finally get to the point here in the race at the very end, and we'll let you guys watch if you haven't watched the stream already, and we'll break it down for you, where Connor caught up to the pack of the leaders. And as they were going down to turn number 1 here, you see, we're going to break it down and pause it for you. First and foremost, going into the corner. So that's Thomas Annunziata leading. This is the white flag. Cole Morgan second, Carson Morgan third. And at this point, you can see Connor's kind of poked his nose down the inside, looking to pass for P3. Actually, yeah, last lap. So Connor looks in, and now Carson looked over, saw Connor was there, and he's like, you know what, let me try and at least pass on Cole, if not potentially block Connor off. We go in a little bit further. Connor, you can see the back end step out right there as he locks up, trying not to make contact. But Carson shuts the door fully. And then when the contact does happen, Thomas Annunziata, wrong place, wrong time after being up front for the entire main event and leading coming to the white flag, gets spun out. So then he gets going, and there goes our first bit of anger. He flips off Carson as they go away. Then we go down the back straightaway here. Connor starts to lead the train down the inside, and Cole, after picking on his little brother Carson for the majority of the main event, sees Connor, and in the stereotype of only I'm allowed to bully my little brother, decides to lay on the bumper, move him to the outside, start swerving him. And then at this point, it's tough to tell because already the driver behind has gotten on top of Cole. I'm going to back that up just a frame or two so you can see. But Cole, he's got enough of a lane to get down the inside. Connor is almost out in the marbles, almost touching the barrier here. And Cole's driving up next to him, still kind of looking at him and starting to wheel him. And so instead of going by, which I think is what the guy in third thought was going to happen, he thought Cole would just move him up the racetrack and go. Instead, Cole's still kind of pinching him up there. So then the guy in third drives up to Cole's bumper and parks it at the last second, and then just gets a tiny little nudge there from Brandon Lemke, puts him up on top of Cole. And at this point, Cole's already sent Connor into the barrier. And this guy's gotten on top of Cole because Cole kept himself out of the barrier, so he would have been fine. And here we go, the best part of the stream. Connor, little look at him, little slap, little flip off. And instantly the camera cuts away. So Connor, correct me if I'm wrong. How accurate is that breakdown? Oh wait,
You're muted.
we gotta unmute himself. Where is he? There we
Yeah.
go. All right, there we go. Go ahead.
I think
Restart.
Yeah,
muted
let's
me.
put you up here. Let's have you break down the video, or
right.
say if there's anything different.
All right,
from
going
it.
in. Put me where I'm like, all right, I'm inside. Carson sees I'm on his inside, so he goes to the inside of Cole. But you play it ahead just like a couple frames. All right, right here. He's not just passing Cole. I mean, he's obviously like, don't pass me, Connor. And it doesn't matter if I touched him or not. He was spearing Thomas. So that I can say, whatever. Look, blame it on me. I'm not going to argue about it. I feel really bad for Thomas, though. That was his race to win. So I just feel
Understand
really
the gesture.
because he was going to win the race if that incident didn't happen. Here, Cole, I'm not going to say rightfully so, but he didn't brake, sent me, put me in the wall, and anger took over. And the main reason I was mad is I had just come from 42nd to the lead, and it was my race to win on the last. Well, it wasn't my race. From turn 2 to turn 4, it was my race to win, and it got thrown away because he was upset that I took his brother out. Whatever.
And so you guys were hanging out. You, Paulie, and the Morgan brothers were all buddies again Sunday night. So when did you guys patch things back up again? Because, I mean, you guys were pissed.
Yeah, X30 grid, I went up to him and I was like, look, whether we crash or not, like whether it was my fault, your fault, Carson's fault, whatever happened, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have slapped you. That was just stupid of me. And he basically said no. Like he was like, nah. So I was like, all right, cool. I gave my apology, tried to be the bigger person. He wasn't having it. And then we're sitting up at the stands watching the shifter race, and Cole walks up. He's like, all right, we're cool. I was like, where was that 2 hours ago? And it's whatever. So we hung out that night. I mean, it's not like we could have changed the results. So we kind of just went along with it, and we didn't want to ruin our friendship. So we both decided that it was the right thing to do by just.
Hold on. Wait, so if I'm understanding this right, okay. Wait, hold on. Which one was it? Was it Carson or Cole was the one?
Pull the video back up for you. He wrecked Carson and Cole wrecked him.
Okay, so
I didn't wreck Carson.
So Cole. Oh, is that Carson that he hits right there?
So,
or
yeah,
is that Carson that turns down on Connor right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's another Morgan that takes him out in the next corner. Okay.
Yeah. Then there's
so
this Morgan in second.
that is so clearly not Connor's fault in turn 1. And then that's so clearly not Connor's fault in turn 4. So tell me why that Connor had to apologize to him and he didn't accept the apology when it was not even his fault at all. How does that even make sense?
You know, I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. And I don't want to talk about it because, look, I mean, I still don't think it's my fault, but everyone else is like, that was your fault in turn 1. You literally just sent Carson. I went to his inside and saw me there. What do you want me to do?
This is still just
and I think now that we've slowed it down, I think that makes it a little better on my side. Because, like, I knew as soon as it happened that I was like, man, I was committed to the inside.
You were already on the inside of him when you, like, I don't even know how you were on the inside of him here. And then you were fully alongside of him, and he's turning in on the racing line, giving you zero room whatsoever.
And again, at this point, you guys are already getting onto the brakes. Like, you can see it's him stepping out. And obviously, that's how he was able to get underneath Cole at this point. You're already in the braking zone, and he's moving in the braking zone here. And this is not a knock on Carson or Cole in any way. I mean, these are two of the most talented drivers in the country.
And it's the last
right
lap of
here.
SuperNats. So
and he went in like 4 cars too deep. He wasn't going to make the corner.
That's the other part. Does he spear Thomas even if he doesn't hit? I think there's a chance probably he doesn't hit Annunziata just because the contact here ends up keeping him going versus like being to lock the brakes a little bit more. But at this point, it looks like it would have been damn close either way. And then poor Tommy, man. You know, but everybody gets into it in any way. And I don't want to, just knock on these guys because, I mean, these are two two drivers that are probably running up front a whole lot in 2022, especially with how much momentum Carson's had. I mean, he swept the last 9 junior main events of the season before he moved up. So, but that wasn't the only drama on the weekend. It wasn't just the young guys, which I wanted to also kind of say that, like, this is exactly what I would expect and like want to see it for anyone that's still tuning in, that's kind of getting a grasp on karting in general, like what the classes look like. This type of so K100 senior, what you're seeing in the lead group is a combined age of, what would you say, Connor? Tommy's 15, Cole's 16, Carson's 14. Am I right on that? Am I off on ages?
It's almost all less than me.
Yeah, I think so. It's the lights class. You know, you don't see everybody.
Brandon.
It's like the NASCAR Xfinity Series, you know, in a way, because we have a lot of young guys still pulling double duty, but you don't see every single one of the pros in the class. And, you know, I mean, in Supercross, the 250 class is like one of the dirtiest classes out there because it's young guys trying to make a name for themselves, you know, so you see them going at it. And this was by far the wildest finish of the main events on the weekend in terms of carnage. There was a really good finish in X30 Master that was 3 wide across the line, but this was just young guys going at it. So, it's about what you'd expect, I feel like, not only at SuperNats, but out of a class here that's kind of like a, you know, these guys getting an opportunity where the Curls and Ryans and, you know, some of the other big guys that were here, Hiltbrand, are not running, you know, your factory guys are not running KA Senior. But we also still had drama beyond that. So I wanted to talk about Pro Shifter. How many of you guys were able to watch any of the Pro Shifter heats? Did any of you guys get out there to watch any of those once we got racing this weekend? I'm sure you guys probably got to see maybe some of the main, but everyone get to see, yes or no, the Pro Shifter heats on through?
Yeah, I watched them.
No.
Yeah.
Pretty boring, but
Yeah.
other than AJ made it interesting. I don't know if it was for a good reason, but he made it interesting.
With that front bumper coming off, it was.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's stupid.
Yeah. So, to give everyone the story of how things went down in Pro Shifter. So, and if you saw our top 10 result from qualifying, you'd see that there were a lot of red on the sheet. In fact, Burrell Art basically had, 4 factory level guys there. You have Matteo Vigano under the Lennox Racing team with the Charles Leclerc cart as a factory guy, world champ. You have Marian Kremers there. You have Ricky Longi there, 2 guys on the Burrell Art factory team who are, world champions as well, world contenders. And then Jake French, who's, just came up second at Rock Vegas, is right there with Danny and with AJ. So they've got 4 guys under the same tent that are going to race each other really clean and obviously want a red cart to win. AJ Myers was the only Magic cart they got going. Andrew was a little bit off, and the rest of the Magic team was kind of struggling to get to AJ's pace. But AJ put it on pole by a 1/10 of a second in Heat 1. And the track map, I'm going to see if I can pull it up here so we can kind of break down what corner that it went down in. But the final chicane, which was super, super tight. I guess we could show it off on here on the KA video and show it. So once where it cuts back over here at the last second. So they're coming out of this fast chicane, and then they go to the tight chicane, which you can't see here, but super tight. Well, Longy was running second, and Ricardo Longy is even like more motivated than any of these other guys for a red cart to win. Because not only is he a factory driver, he's the Burrell Art team manager over in Europe. So he's like full on Team Red Army, and he's leading them, or he's leading that group second to AJ, a cart and a half back. Stuffs it down the inside with 2 to go, and just locks the fronts up. Slides sideways into him and hooks his left rear bumper inside of AJ's right front bumper. And when he pits the gas, it rips AJ's front bumper off. And when AJ comes in the pits after finishing 8th on track with the missing bodywork, he gets a DQ, gets a 50th place result, which is almost a death sentence in shifter because in that class, there's only about 5 to 10 guys that really can contend up at the front. And there's usually not nearly as much wrecking. So the last lap, sorry, you're right, Matt. Last lap he got him. It was not 2 to go, but last lap gets into him. So he falls back, gets the DQ. So then AJ's weekend's thrown for a loop after qualifying on the pole right off the bat. There's beef there. Then we go to heat number 3. And in heat number 3, AJ's running 4th. Danny Formal's running 3rd. Longy's running 5th. Formal's maybe about 4 cart lengths up on AJ. Formal's radiator hose starts to come loose. He starts pushing water. AJ hits the water, slips because he's the first one in line to get there. Longy gets by. And then AJ finally gets to give the business back to Longy by moving him back out of the way and punting him on the final lap because he lost the position, I think, with 2 to go. So he gets back around Longy and kind of starts to give it back to him a little bit, knowing that was the last time he's going to be probably near him because he's going to have to start mid-pack in the feature. That one went all right. And then they go to the scale line. They're yelling at each other again. Longy starts yelling at AJ in Italian. And Ryan, I didn't even know about this. You brought this to me. AJ lived over in Italy. So not only does AJ know Italian from studying, he spoke the language when he lived over there. So AJ fires right back at Ricardo in Italian. And then the Italian factory driver's like, whoa, like an American driver. He just thought he was, thought he could get away by cussing him out in a language he didn't know. So that beef's going on all the way through. And then you can even see it at the very end of the broadcast. If AJ was on, I saw it on track. I can't remember if AJ ended up on screen or not as soon as he crossed the line. But he drove from 13th up to 5th and came about 2 cart lengths short from getting to Longy's rear bumper. And as soon as he takes the checkered, his head just bangs off the wheel because he wanted to get to him so bad. So it wasn't just KA Senior that had drama, but Pro Shifter had like this ongoing storyline of the lead lone Magic Kart driver going head-to-head with Burrell Art's main team manager. And I don't know if I got that right or if you guys have anything to add, but that was pretty much one of the other big storylines out of the weekend that I thought made the racing really, really fun. And not everyone in the fan and the guys at home got to see, but because the heat races aren't streamed. But it was funny to watch it progress all the way on through. Jeremy, I don't think was there any drama in junior? It looked like for you, I mean, there was a battle all the way through. I don't think there was any drama. Your weekend was really good.
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't much wrecking. It was just more in the back that would cause maybe a double yellow once or twice. And that was it. There was really no rivalry or wrecking through the weekend.
Well, Jeremy, put your mic next to your mouth rather than next to your eye.
Yeah.
It was usually loud.
But I think that's the general storyline of the whole week was kind of the track conditions and the constant reds and double yellows. And I think that was honestly one of the most I've seen in a long time for any street race.
Yeah, practice was a joke.
Well, that was definitely the most dangerous track that I've driven at SuperNats for sure.
Right. It was a lot tighter than years past, which was interesting. The surface was super smooth, but the track was there. Actually, the one bit of drama you did have, Jeremy, before we go into the track discussion, what was your last lap in KA? With Elio. That was over in turn 4, correct?
Yeah, on the exit.
Yeah, on the exit. So walk us through it.
I mean, he got by me down the straightaway, and I was just looking for a crossover. I mean, I got under him in 4. I just went straight, and he just stuck with me and just drove straight through the wall and ended up hitting me after he hit the wall. But I thought he was going to back out of it. He was about maybe at my rear tire, and I just kept going straight, and he ended up hitting the wall, hit me, and his tire was done.
Yeah, but that's a casual case of guys going at it for it, there at the end. Everybody knows the risk when you get on the outside. There's a chance you end up getting burned on it. But back to the layout. We talked about it a little bit last week. Ryan, you're the only one that wasn't on the show besides Frankie and Jeremy. So, we were thinking that I was curious if everybody felt like the track was more technical with it being tighter and that new chicane, but the overall consensus was that it wasn't. It was still roughly about a super tight, I don't want to call it easy, but definitely easier than what we're seeing SuperNats in the past.
I mean, I think for me, it was more difficult. I liked the old layout. It kind of suited a driver who overdrove. And this one definitely was kind of the reverse of that. Like, you could not overdrive at all, and it would really punish you if you did. So on a personal side, I think the other layout was easier. The track was definitely tighter, and that really, I feel like, hurt a lot of the racing. It made it pretty difficult to get just clean racing. I feel like a lot of the incidents that we saw were somewhat avoidable. I mean, like even Connor's incident with Hannah, after I'd passed them in that corner, he came out of there and the track just gets so tight. So he, fought a pass, and then she was coming through trying to pass him. And then, it just bottlenecked up, and they both ran into each other like flat out. And so it's like a lot of those awkward situations where you've got drivers coming by and anticipating something else happening, and then the track just comes to a complete stop and everybody just piles into the back of them. I think by the end of the week, everybody kind of had a good idea of how to get around the place, but for sure early on, it was a bit of a struggle, and everybody kind of, had to figure out a way to race there without jeopardizing crashing every single session.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts we have on the track layout before we put it to bed and move on, fellas, from the week? I mean, I think the only thing that I wish they would have done a little bit different was that the pit layout still seemed kind of, or the pit entry when they moved it still seemed kind of awkward in where it was. I mean, after it got put into practice, how did it feel for you guys? Was it still kind of tricky in some of those warm-up sessions if guys would pull off early? Like
Nah,
not running over them?
Nah,
It was
we're always
good.
so slow on that part of the track.
So
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
I
not-
wish
was
they did
definitely-
that in the beginning of the weekend. But
Yeah, the first one was definitely a trouble spot.
Yeah, the first
It
one was a
uh,
moving chicane in the mile of the track. Like,
Yeah,
and
it was
the
a
entry was like a
questionable.
cart length wide, so you had to literally slow it down so much. And then in the end, it was in a tight 15-mile-an-hour chicane, and it was like really wide. So you didn't have to lift you didn't have to lift on the racing line to get into the pits. It was just, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know if you have the video pulled up, but
I don't have Paulie's here, but we'll show that later on.
Yeah,
I
it was
do
just-
have a video to move on from Homestead though that I wanted to put. So for everyone tuning in, looking for what the new curbs are going to look at, we're going to take a look at this. Go to commercial after we kind of give our thoughts on it, and when we come back, we'll have any more viewer Q&A about SuperNats 24 and looking into 2022 with the SKUSA Winter Series. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the onboard footage that we got. This is the first footage we've seen. So this is you can see over here turn number 1 already. The curbs going in because we're going to run backwards again at one of the weekends. They haven't, I think, said which. This curb here on the left's been elevated to a CIK level again. The curb on the right, fully flattened. You're not going to jump up on it. We're not going to be – this is the section of the racetrack that, Jeremy, you broke a rib here when we first ran it backwards, right? We're motocross whooping it across, yeah?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I tore like my pericardium and was out for a while.
Yeah, so this was when the barriers, the guys were going all the way out to the barriers and just completely jumping across like a ski jump. Same thing with the curb up here. Both of these curbs here have been raised and elevated, added some concrete to them. The exits, again, all have grass strips. This section right here, that curb going in got elevated a little bit and lengthened mainly because if you go and watch some of the videos when we run the opposite direction, the only reason we were going outside of this curb wasn't necessarily to jump it, but it was because it started too late. You can see on the right that is all brand new curbing going into the corner, so we're not going to have the normal line come out of the corner and be able to go left or right at the curb. The curb will already be there, as it is right here properly. Then going down here to turn number 5, you've got the grass on the outside edge again. Flat curb coming out of there. Starts a little bit sooner because it was the same deal going the opposite way that you could kind of pick and choose to go left or right at the curb. And then coming out of here, same thing. And I apologize about the quality and everything on it, but grass coming out. And then all the way through this section, you've got flat curbs on the outside and just a grass strip that's continuous around the outside through the 90s. And so we were talking a little bit before the show. Ryan, you've had probably more laps at Homestead than most of the guys here besides maybe Jeremy. You've grown up racing a lot, and you've seen it where the curbs have been shaved down year after year. You saw the progression because it wasn't always like that. When they were first installed, they were pretty high up and people weren't necessarily killing them the way we were in the final few years. They get shaved down. So looking at that now and breaking that down, I mean, you would think we might still end up clipping the curbs a little bit, but definitely not flying them like we used to.
I'm sure in some of the spots you'll still, want to use them, and I haven't driven it yet, so I don't know how big they are. If they are the size of GoPros, like they say, it's going to be a challenge to use them, but there's drivers out there that will, and I don't think, in turn 1 and those fast 90s, I'm sure people will still try and clip it. But honestly, the biggest problem with the racetrack over the years had been the exit curves, because back in 2012 when I would race this track, we never had the issues that we had recently going over the exit curves because of they were so much higher. You would just bottom out over it, but because they got shaved down over the years, that's where drivers would start creeping over them and not really feeling the pain that used to be there. And so, yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think I'm really happy with how it's turned out. It's definitely going to change the way that the track drives a lot, because even just avoiding the curbs normally isn't going to change much, but the entry curbs on the way into the corners, I set up all my braking zones off of that. I set up where I turn in off of using those entry curbs into the corner. It pulls the cart over a little bit and kind of helps set the go-kart going into the corners. So for sure, it's going to change how you drive that track and how you enter the corners. And it's nice. It's kind of cool that they're changing it up and making it a lot more racy. And yeah, I'm happy with the way it looks right now. I'm happy with the end results. It looks pretty nice.
Yeah, and not everybody here is going to end up racing down there. But fellas, what other thoughts we've got on this track so far? Jeremy, I'm sure you're pretty relieved to see those curbs be in a little bit different configuration.
Yeah, I mean, it should be way better, as especially backwards. You're not going to be jumping them, I don't think, as much, because they're way bigger now on the inside, and there's not really much runoff. I mean, it's just going to be people pushing each other into the grass, maybe. That might be the only thing, but it looks pretty fun.
Right, and we talked about a little bit too on the air. That track's probably going to get a little bit dirty with some of the rocks and pebbles and just a little bit of dirt getting shoved on when guys get knocked off the racetrack. Braden, you've only run there one time. You got to hit the curbs over there. Now you're looking at it. Any
One
other
time?
thoughts?
No, I've been there before.
When did you run before?
I was there for Florida Winter Tour 2015. And I did SKUSA Winter in Rotax.
When did you run? No, you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
In when? In junior?
In Comp Cart, yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So a couple times.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on it here?
I think the track's going to be a lot less technical. I thought that was like what made the track so difficult, was having to like go from curb to curb to curb and having to be super perfect with it. So it's definitely going to be less technical, but I support, obviously it being a lot less tough on the chassis. Help the budgets a little bit for the season, not having to replace a chassis after one race of Homestead. So I think that's good, but no, I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the grass or whatever they put at the exit corners holds up, because people are definitely going to be in that a lot as soon as they race there. So hopefully it doesn't get torn up too bad.
Yeah, it's proper grass. It's not any AstroTurf or anything. It's a real grass strip they put in, and it's the same as some of the strips that they've had around the racetrack. And this was like what I pointed out with the track when we were looking at some of these stuff when I was working there for the few years that I did. Is like we had some of these strips already. You can see them like this patch right here on the right hand side. It's in the same degree. There may be a couple inches down. It's not like it's super, super deep, but the asphalt's completely gone underneath it. You're just down to the soil. So it's real grass. We'll see. Cause when you go through those, even like, if we go all the way to the last corner, there was kind of a dead grass patch right here that, let's see, I guess it's been filled in, but it was right around this section. The first year we started going way outside the runoff and we ran backwards. It was like you ended up going over it and then it just slowly like kind of dissipated. So I think these being a little bit thicker will end up all right with it. But again, we never really know. This weekend will be the first test. There's a lot of people that'll be down there at the club race. Brandon and Paulie, you guys aren't going to be down there, but you guys are you guys heading down for SSKC after to go or just wait until after Daytona?
Just wait till after Daytona. I'll go down there. We have a club race at GoPro this weekend, so won't be able to make it for that. But yeah, I think what they did to Homestead's a really good idea. I think it's actually going to make the track way more challenging because like before, like all the 90s before you get onto the backstretch were basically just flat out, if not just like a little lift. And then you could just use all the track on exit, where now you actually have to like set up for the corner properly so you don't run off into the grass and lose all the momentum down the straightaway. So I like what they did. I think it's going to be way better than what we had before.
Frankie, have you run over here in at Homestead before?
I've actually not. It's a SKUSA Winter Series. It's going to be my first time. I've always really tried to stray away from it because I'm a little girl when it comes to my ribs. So NOLA, getting adjusted to that was a bit hard for me. But going to Homestead, I think it's going to be fun. And at least with the people that's had like 6-7 years on it, they're not going to be able to exploit the curbs as much. So it's going to give me a little bit of a kind of advantage to kind of learn it and be on pace.
Gotcha. Well, we'll go to commercial break, guys. When we come back, we'll take a few more questions here, wrap up the show for the week, and, of course, talk with some of our guests here for the final time, and we'll keep cycling on through for KC Happy Hour through these next few weeks as we get ready to kick back off the 2022 National Pro Season because we've got less than a month until we go back down to Florida. So, again, guys, stick with us. Send your questions in if you haven't already. We'll get to them all, including some of the stuff about the new fuel that have already come in. We'll talk about that here when we come back after the break.
I'm Billy Vincent, owner of MPG Motorsports. What we do at MPG is we try to keep it a nice, fun family atmosphere, try to combine sort of the bigger things and of the bigger teams and the professionalism down with sort of some of the fun sort of family-oriented atmosphere. We try to not only develop drivers, but also the parents and the families for just in knowledge in general in motorsports. It all starts in karting. What we try to do is try to help the drivers, the moms, the dads understand the sport of motorsports in general, not just karting, but what it takes to get all the way up through. Whether you end up wanting to be a driver or a mechanic or an engineer, you know, we can help you with that, and that's what we're here for. If you're interested in joining us at MPG, our home base is at Whiteland Raceway Park in Indianapolis, and you can contact us at info@willpowerkart.com. And one of our great people will reach out to you, and we'll try to put the best program together.
As the Western importer of the Praga and Formula K chassis brands, Leading Edge Motorsports is a high-performance kart shop and race team with a simple mission: teach others the joy of high-performance driving, supply our customers with the highest quality products and services, and win races. With our remarkable racing inventory, expert services, and top-ranked professional race team to back it up, we'll help get your new kart racing package up and running fast. From arrive and drive service to kart preparation and driver coaching, to the parts you need to get back on the racetrack, Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer. Kart Store USA is a kart parts supplier that racers and retailers can count on when they need reliable advice and service. We focus on servicing all racers with honesty and pride while maintaining customer satisfaction. We carry a full stock of Kart Republic and Tony Kart chassis, as well as IAMI and Vortex Rock engines. We've also got a host of other parts available and in stock, such as products from Rev Performance Materials, Jecco Racing Seats, and more. We have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and on top of that, if your order exceeds $200, shipping is on us. Check out all we have to offer today by visiting us online at kartstore-usa.com.
Well, guys, welcome on back here. We did, again, invite you guys to send all your questions in, and we wanted to talk to you first and foremost here. Braden, you said you had some carburetor issues. Who else mentioned? Someone else mentioned they had carburetor issues a little bit too. I think, Ryan, you said you had a little bit. What was the adapting to the new fuel? Does everyone think that may have kind of gunked things up a little, or was it just over the week carbs were kind of going out and needed more rebuild kits?
I think a little bit more than usual. I don't think normally you would have kind of like what I had happen where I was good on engine, and then all of a sudden just one session it felt like I had the worst engine in the field, and then obviously rebuild it, and then it was back to normal again. So I think there's definitely something to it. I was talking to actually the session before that I had the problem. I was talking to Brooks, and he had the same problem the session before, which kind of helped us diagnose it. So shout out to CB44 for that. But yeah, no, I think there's definitely something to be looked into with that, with the carbs.
I think we're just like with the new fuel and everything, I think everybody's just kind of close on the window. We kind of find one thing that works, and that's kind of where we go off of that the whole week. And so I think the window is just kind of small right now. I think as we go through, it'll be more similar to the VP, where the window's a lot bigger, and if you mess up, it's not as bad. I just think right now for me, for sure, we'd make a small change on the carburetor, and it wouldn't go from okay to good, but like if we went the wrong way, it was like okay to really bad. And so it was like, when you went bad, it was bad. And when you went good, it was a little bit better. So I think it's just it's going to take some time for all the engine guys to really feel it out. And, everybody did testing before, but you don't know until you've got all the engines out there. Everybody's running in different conditions, and to really understand what these engines perform like on this fuel and how the carbs react. So yeah, I think it's just a mix of the new fuel being, right on the limit with everything, and everybody's still learning. And yeah, when you make a mistake, it hurts you a lot more than it will down the road.
Yeah, Brandon, what about you? I mean, under your tent, you guys see any kind of differences and issues when you were tuning everybody?
I mean, with the 100cc stuff, we didn't really see much of a difference, but the X30 stuff with me personally, we tried a whole lot of stuff with carburetor, and we never seemed to really pinpoint what what made it work. But we never really got to test before the event, so kind of our testing was at the event because we never got our hands on the fuel. So that was kind of unfortunate. But I did watch a bunch of like the practice sessions on Wednesday, and then even like I know Connor had this problem. I've never seen KA stick really at the end of the straightaway like I've seen this weekend, but there was a bunch of 100cc motors that blew up and going into turn one. I mean, I know we were revving them like crazy high, but normally the KAs make it through the whole weekend, no problem. And I saw a few that stuck this weekend. So,
Connor, Paulie, you guys were running that class. What did you guys see? Same thing?
Yeah, KA was. I mean, it felt pretty similar on the needles. I mean, we didn't really change much tuning wise. It's just that sticking issue. I mean, when my motor stuck, it like the person behind me had a video, and when it stuck, there was parts of my motor flying out the exhaust because the piston, the rod, it all blew up. So it was pretty crazy. And I've never seen a K blow up like that before. And I know of at least 2 other people that had the same issue as me. So it's definitely different. In the X30, I mean, it was difficult to figure it out at first. I mean, I had never ran the fuel prior to it, so I basically went in blind. And Brandon at Allison Racing Engines, he figured it out. And same with my K. I mean, we were struggling early on in the week qualifying Heat 1, and then after my motor blew up and we put a different motor on it, fixed my issues. So that was kind of a blessing that my motor blew up, because it really saved my weekend in KA. But no, it was a lot different for sure, and something to get used to. The fuel stunk. Like on the grid, I was like passing out because when people would start their engines with 1 minute, I was like suffocating. I mean, I've smelt worse fuel before, but overall it was definitely obviously something to learn, but it wasn't terrible.
Yeah. Is everybody about in the same boat? I heard a lot of people saying the same thing. The fuel was making your eyes water a little more than the old stuff did.
yeah,
for
stunk.
sure.
I mean, the
I was
smell
putting my
was-
go-kart down and practice on the left side, so I didn't have to shoot it into my eyes every time.
You know,
What's funny is it's supposed to
on
be
the
better
grid, I
for you,
realized of the heat races, I was like, man, the outside's a lot better.
But yeah, Ryan, like you were saying, this is supposed to be cleaner fuel.
Man, it hurts more and smells like 10 times worse.
This was another question. I kind of touched on this, then we got a little bit into the Cade arguments. This is from Keith Ward talking about the DQ for a sticker on an airbox. This was one thing I wanted to talk about as well. So going into KA, so back in it was not super recent. I think it was the year or 2 years ago. What guys were you can't see the holes on this airbox. They're taped over with the duct tape. I was trying to find a quick picture before the show to show everybody that it was a common trend, and not just recently, to put a full sticker kit on the airbox. And obviously it looks really cool because, you know, on the X30, you've got parts on the head, the top of the motor, you can put a sticker on as an engine builder. On the KAs, you really can't. You've only got a very small area to brand it. So if you want your motor to be branded for people to see, that's your motor that won the race or is on that go-kart. You've just got a little bit on that clutch guard and then on the deal above it. But what people were doing was that they were cutting slits in the airbox to get a little bit more airflow in, because those holes are spec. You can't make those holes any bit bigger. And then they were hiding it by having the sticker kit over it, because obviously it's a lot easier to see a slit in just an all gray or all black airbox. It's a little bit tougher when you've got the sticker kit kind of around it. So that was where that rule came up from, of no stickers on the airbox, so that way they wouldn't have to worry about it. But obviously that's kind of something you'd want to tell a guy early in the weekend and give him a chance, give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's not cutting slits in it. It was just something that they found. So waiting until the final, and then basically we didn't show it on that edit, but Brandon Lemke and Nick Terlecki both had stickers on their airboxes, and they ended up finishing first and third after everything settled, and originally were chunked for it, and then that penalty overturned. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I mean, it's SuperNats. They're going to tear the motor down, rip the sticker off, you know, see if there's slits on the airbox. And then if there's slits, then, you know, chunk them for however you want to, because that's obviously malicious cheating. But just because there's a sticker on the airbox as a blanket statement to take away a $3,000 win at the biggest race in the world is a little bit silly. And again, going back to what I said earlier, I wanted to give SKUSA kudos for that because they reversed it. And I think in years past with some of the decisions they've made, maybe that's kind of influenced it. But it seemed like this weekend they were at least willing to make necessary changes and make a lot of effort to make sure the event was run properly and use some common sense. And you don't always see that in the sport. So I want to make sure that was touched on. And it was cool. I mean, what everybody think of opening ceremonies with the marching band was stepped up. We had a Jumbotron this year. We had a stage. I mean, it seemed like there was definitely a little bit in the air where they really wanted to make this show big.
Then are you going to talk about AJ's pole award?
Oh, we can.
Yeah.
That was all right. So that was, you know, again, I get it. They go all out for opening ceremonies. All the drivers are supposed to be on the racetrack. They're trying to honor the pole award winners and give away the money. And AJ Myers was not in attendance at opening ceremony Sunday morning. So when Tom called his name for I think it was a $3,000 to win the pole in shifter or something like that, and ripped the check up in front of everybody. It broke the check in half over his knee when AJ wasn't in attendance. So I get it. I mean, you know, that's Tom. Everybody knows Tom's been polarizing and been known to be kind of a little bit frustrated if you know, because you go all out. I mean, it's a passion sport. You know, Connor, you slapped a guy on the head. So, but
That's an interesting way to put it, Xander.
I mean, look, you know, yeah, you didn't have to, but I mean, you get embarrassed. It sucked. It's nerve-wracking still to me after all these years talking in front of a couple hundred people. You're in front of the biggest crowd we see in the sport, and you're all hyped up about everything you've got, and your favorite class is Tom Love Shifter, and your pole sitter doesn't show up to your opening ceremonies. Like, you know, I'd be frustrated too. But the way it all was handled, obviously, could have been a little bit better than just in front of everybody taking the check and going, well, bam. So, And I wanted to have some shifter guys on too. I think we'll probably bring them on one of the next shows to talk about the pushbacks, because that was a question here from Amy Bowles Rasmussen that just came in. I wanted to throw up on the screen. Talk about pushbacks. There were a lot in the KA final. I don't know how many there were in X30. It didn't seem like there were a ton because that final was a little more tame. But I don't know, boys. Do you think if we didn't have the pushbacks, would have been a whole lot worse this weekend? Because I feel like the starts would have been maybe worse, maybe not. What do you think?
No, it would have been the exact same.
Really?
The exact same.
They were. I mean, I saw in shifter. I saw at least 2 people push their bumpers out in the top 5 in the heat races. Like I'm not
in the scale line or on track,
but no, on track, pushing their bumpers out after the checker.
Ah.
I know a lot of people that do that.
Yeah, I know. If you watched the races, I mean, like turn 2 every start, 15th on back in shifter hadn't been going 5 miles an hour. Like,
yeah,
it was like dead parking lot stop. It was pretty bad, and it was just. So I mean, it's not like they're maliciously taking someone out of the race and deserve a 5-second penalty. It's just everyone stacks up, and when you make the track that tight, it's bound to happen. And when you give us a pushback bumper, it's bound to get pushed in. So it's just there's no perfect way to give someone a penalty for that stuff, because they're going to miss some, they're going to miscall some. The pushbacks aren't going to work 100% of the time. So it's an argument for another day. But
I think with the with all these cameras SKUSA has, they could start pushing away from them. I wouldn't say yet, but I say soon they could start pushing away from them, because like I've seen guys like not even like it wouldn't even be their fault and get the pushback, like they're just wrong place, wrong time, and get shoved into someone or something like that. But then I've also seen other guys just completely destroy someone, and like somehow their pushback wouldn't even be in. So it's I don't feel like it's the I don't know. I feel like, I mean, it's obviously worked in my favor before, but and it hasn't many of times. But I feel like with the more technology that everybody's starting to use, I feel like you could probably start eliminating them in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean they were never meant to be an end all be all. I feel like the whole consensus from the industry when we first brought them in was these were a Band-Aid, and it's a, you know, when you leave a Band-Aid on for a couple of days, it gets pretty nasty. Well, we've had this Band-Aid on for about 7 years, so granted it's not an exact comparison, but I think Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we got to cut these field sizes down a little bit too. I don't know about you guys, but going on track with 50 go-karts. I mean, I've officiated for PKS for 2 years now and done a bunch of different regional stuff. And like, it gets more than 30, you just miss it, you know? And I mean, you miss stuff even with it. I hate that like we end up with a lot more. Then what the penalty sheet looks like is like, it looks like there's 2 calls made, maybe 4 calls made, and then because there's so many go-karts, a million pushbacks, a bunch of tram line violations. I mean, that was another probably the last storyline to talk about over the weekend was there were guys that finished 10th in the LCQ and transferred in because they didn't have a pushback and didn't have a tram line violation. I was in mini. The mini kid, I think, that ended up 6th, got in 4 positions up on penalties. And I know there were multiple guys that got bounced out for KA too. Aiden Levy lost his spot in the final. He was one of the last transfers because he got a tram line violation starting back in 18th, which that's a little more like, I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about those. Ryan, I know you like them because they're black and white, but I'm borderline on them. I mean, that's simpler. But the pushbacks, I mean, yeah. We'll save that for another day, boys. We go all day on that. We have, I think, probably like at least a quarter of the episodes we've done. So we'll wrap up there. But yeah, another year in SuperNats in the books. We've all got a little bit of time to kind of get ready. And as everybody here knows, the season never really stops for karting, especially even on the national level. There's club racing going on this weekend. SSKC regional stuff is going to be, open back next week. Then there's Christmas. Then there's Daytona Kart Week with WK. A bunch of guys going to go down and run that. There's the CKNA Winter Nationals right after Daytona is done. That runs through New Year's weekend in Jacksonville. Also on that same New Year's weekend, I'm sure a bunch of people will be down in Homestead. That'll be the unofficial test weekend because then we go to January 6th, 7th, and 8th. And the SKUSA Winter Series kicks off the pro season for 16, 17 events next year if you count Rock Winter Tour, SKUSA Winter Series, Pro Tour, Vegas, and then, of course, USPKS and Miami Grands makes up a pretty full year. So I wanted to bring everybody on. Obviously, Jeremy, you're joining us. We'll see a whole lot of you next year in senior. Frankie, you moved up to senior, so welcome on, fellas. For everybody watching, hopefully you'll get to see those faces a lot more. For everyone here on regular KC Happy Hour, always thank you guys for tuning in, and thanks for coming on. We're going to wrap the show up. We'll be back next Tuesday. Maybe get some shifter guys on. Maybe get some more guys on. We got a few weeks with no real big racing. That means we get to play around and talk about a lot of other fun topics. So we'll stay with it. Thanks, as always, for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week.